Hi all, this is part 3 of my chapter 17 notes that can be found in the week 3 questions thread under the post My Notes. And hopefully this will be the final part. I think it will. So last time we left off right before we hit birds, right? So birds were previously placed in their own class Aves. Recent genetic evidence shows that they are reptiles, having evolved from a lineage of small two-legged dinosaurs called theropods. Quite different from reptiles because of their feathers and other distinct flight equipment. Almost all of the 10,000 living bird species are airborne. A few flightless species, including the ostrich and the penguin, evolved from flying ancestors. If you get a chance, check out New Zealand flightless birds. There are so many there, like the moa that they just killed off when humans hit there. And then there really was a rock, an ROC bird, which was huge, and that was, I believe, in Madagascar originally. Many of the recent megafauna was killed off when human beings moved into their area. Okay, so flying requires a great expenditure of energy and an active metabolism. Unlike other reptiles, birds are endotherms, meaning that they have their own metabolic heat to maintain a warm, constant body temperature. So now we're going to talk about mammals. The first mammals arose about 20 million years ago. They were probably small nocturnal insect eaters, like shrews. Mammals became more diverse after the downfall of the dinosaurs because, let's face it, if there's suddenly all these niche openings, it's really easy to fill them in. Most mammals are terrestrial, including nearly 1,000 species of winged mammals like bats. And about 80 species of dolphins, porpoises, whales are totally aquatic. The blue whale, an endangered mammal that grows to the length of nearly 30 meters, is the largest animal that has ever lived. I think that's the largest animal. Check that. Make sure no dinosaurs ever lived bigger. Ichthyosaurus might be bigger. I think it might be largest in terms of mass. Two features, hair and mammary glands that produce milk that nourishes the young, are mammalian hallmarks. So basically, they got breasts. The main function of hair is to insulate the body and help maintain a warm, constant internal temperature. Mammals, like birds, are endotherms, right? Because we use our metabolic rate. We shiver. So now scroll down. So there are some stuff other than mammals, and those are the duck-billed platypus and the echidna are the only existing species of monotremes. These are egg-laying mammals. So marsupials have placentas. Once you get past that, you got mammals. The first mammals, at least most likely the first mammals, were things like platypus and echidnas. Those are considered monotremes. And then you have the non-laying egg mammals. I think that's how it goes. Maybe marsupials are after. Check that. That's what the book is for. Right? To verify things. But the point is, this is before. So you have the egg laying. We don't have our placenta yet. So that means, yes, these guys come before marsupials. We're going to have our marsupials. They have a placenta, but they have that whole pouch system. And then finally we get everybody else. So during pregnancy in marsupials, the eurytheans, the embryos are nurtured inside the mother by an organ called the placenta, consisting of both embryonic and maternal tissues. The placenta joins the embryo to the mother within the uterus. The embryo is nurtured by maternal blood that flows close to the embryonic blood system. Marsupials and so-called pouched animals include kangaroos, koalas, and opossums. These mammals have a brief pregnancy and give birth to tiny embryonic young offspring that complete development while attached to the mother's nipples. The nursing young are usually housed in an external pouch on the mother's abdomen. I believe possums are the only ones, marsupial, whose range is actually increasing because they're pretty general. Generalists usually increase range pretty easy. Eutherians are also called placental mammals because their placentas provide a more intimate and longer lasting association between mother and her developing young than do marsupial placentas. Eurytheans make up about 95% of the 5,300 living mammals: dogs, cats, cows, rodents, rabbits, bats, everybody. One of the groups is primates, so we are part of that. All right, so let's talk about primates. Primates are the mammalian group that consists of the Homo sapiens and its closest kin. Taxonomists divide primates into 3 groups. The first include the lorises, podos, and lemurs. These primates live in Madagascar, Africa, and southern Asia. Tarsiers, small nocturnal tree dwellers found only in Southeast Asia, form the second group of primates. The third group of primates, the arthropods, includes monkeys, apes, and humans. All monkeys in the New World, the Americas, are arboreal and are distinguished by prehensile grasping tails that function as extra appendages for swinging. And then you have a link. So, New World, got tails, swing. Arthropods, I guess I'm doing pods, also have a fully opposable thumb. That is, they can touch the tips of all 4 fingers with their thumb. Our closest anthropod relatives are the non-human apes, gibbons, orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees. Humanity is one very young twig of the tree of life. In the continuum of life spanning 3.5 billion years, the fossil record and molecular systematics indicate that humans and chimpanzees shared a common African ancestry for all but the last 5 to 7 million years ago. So 5 to 7 million years, we actually split. Put another way, if we compress the history of life into a year, the human branch has existed for only 18 hours. So we're really, really young. And yet all the damage we have managed to do. Chimpanzees and humans represent 2 divergent branches of the arthropod tree that evolved from the common, less specialized ancestor. So it doesn't mean that we evolved from the chimpanzees. It means that we shared a common ancestor. Like, you can take a square, manipulate it, and turn it into a really big rectangle, or lose a side and turn a triangle. So your common ancestor can really look a lot different and be a lot different than what the 2 end up being. You think of the homozygous traits, like if we were both one half of that, it could be very different critters, but still have something in common. Chimpanzees are not our parent species, but more like our phylogenetic siblings or cousins. Hominins, members of the human family, are members of the human family. And then there's a link that shows you a whole bunch of them. Evolution does not have the goal of humanness. So we are not the last rung on the ladder. Think of evolution as like a really big shrub, and each little branch is perfecting, each little species is perfecting itself to manage, well, not perfecting, but is doing what it takes to thrive in its specific location. So if I'm a rat, my mutations that help me become a better rat are the ones that are likely to survive in the population without some really weird issue happening. If I'm a human, it's the same thing. Of course, we have technology to change stuff up a little bit, but that's every single critter. You don't say, oh, that's a lesser being. That is a product of evolution for its niche. It's doing a much better job at being a rat than I could do as a human of being a rat, okay? In the fossil record, it reveals that different human features evolved at different rates, with erect posture or bipedalism leading the way. Our pedigree includes ancestors who walked upright but had ape-sized brains. So when we say pedigree here, it's like the evolutionary phylogeny kind of thing. Australopithecus walked the African savanna. Fossil evidence indicates that bipedalism first arose in Australopithecus afarensis about 4 million years ago. And there's some good websites. Let's scroll down. Anthropologists have found skulls with brain capacities intermediate in size between those of the latest Australopithecus, anthropologist in my head, Australopithecus species and those of Homo sapiens. Simple handmade stone tools are sometimes found with the larger brained fossils, which have been dubbed Homo habilis, handyman. After walking upright for about 2 million years, humans were finally beginning to use their manual dexterity and big brains to invent tools that enhanced their hunting, gathering, and scavenging on the African savanna. So when they started to walk upright, suddenly they were able to use their hands or other things, and then with a bigger brain, they started figuring stuff out. Let's scroll down. The first species to extend humanity's range from Africa to the other continents was Homo erectus, perhaps a descendant of Homo habilis. Skeletons of Homo erectus dating to 1.8 million years ago, found in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, represent the oldest known fossils of hominins outside of Africa. Homo erectus migrated to populate many regions of Asia and Europe, eventually moving as far as Indonesia. So once we were upright, started using tools, we moved on, right? Because now we're able to be a predator rather than a prey to the new species that we find. Homo erectus was taller than Homo habilis and had a larger brain capacity. During the 1.5 million years the species existed, the Homo erectus brain increased to as large as 1,200 centimeters cubed, comparable to modern humans. Intelligence enabled humans to continue succeeding in Africa and also to survive in the colder climates of the north. So now we're using technology. Homo erectus resided in huts, caves, built fires, made clothes from animal skins, and designed stone tools. To me, when someone says caveman, they mean Homo erectus. In anatomical and physiological adaptations, Homo erectus was poorly equipped for life outside the tropics, but made up for these deficiencies with cleverness and social cooperation. You're taking an anthropology class, you would talk about hunters and gatherers, moving into an agrarian society, building cities, conquest, all that fun stuff. So then I say hard pregnancies of the Homo habilis and the Homo genus in general has required a socialness factor and midwifery. Deep. Evolutionary psychology is the study of how the brain has evolved, how our psychology has. And there's a fun link just to see what it means. It's a really interesting field, and since that is not a fossilized feature, brainwaves, it makes it very difficult to study, but has some really interesting things happening. The oldest fossils known of our own species, Homo sapiens, were discovered in Ethiopia and date from 160,000 years ago to 195,000 years ago. These early humans lacked heavy brow ridges of Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalis. Now remember, recent studies do show that our Neanderthals were interbreeding a lot with the Homo erectus, or it should be slightly Homo sapiens early on at that point. And were slender, suggesting that they belong to a distinct lineage. The Ethiopian fossils support molecular evidence about the origin of humans. DNA studies strongly suggest that all living humans can trace their ancestry back to a single African Homo sapien woman who lived 160,000 years to 200,000 years ago. So this is going to be through mitochondrial DNA. That's why it's to a woman, because women give their mitochondria to their egg. So you had the mitochondria of your mother. Right? Makes it interesting. Oh, we're going to make it to the end. The extended period of human development also lengthens the time parents care for their offspring, which contributes to the child's ability to benefit from the experiences of early generations. This is also the basis of culture. So we have to stay together as a community so our kids can grow up. Social transmission of accumulated knowledge, customs, beliefs, and art over generations. The major means of this transmission is language, spoken and written. So it's very important for us to develop, or once we develop the language, spoken and written, how much faster we could evolve. Think of this as your punctuated equilibrium. How much change would happen technologically and otherwise once you had a formal language. Reminds me of the Phoenicians, who we get the Phoenician alphabet from, which is our first basic alphabet, and they were seagoing traders. They actually created an alphabet so they were able to market their goods, and this led to one of these original written, really used languages. And the only reason we call them Phoenician is because that's what everybody else called them. Don't know much about them. It's more of a study that's going on. Definitely look them up if you get a chance. So interesting. Everything is interesting. That's why we care. Okay, I think this is the last part. Woohoo! 30 seconds. Okay, so the first stage of nomads began with the nomads who hunted and gathered food in Africa. They made tools, they had beautiful ancient art. Then they're going to travel because of with agriculture through Africa and Eurasia and the Americas. The third major stage in our cultural evolution is the Industrial Revolution. Think of